It is absolutely no secret whatsoever that I collect uncirculated rolls of Lincoln Cents. As a matter of fact, I have thousands of them. But the one question I get very frequently: what are your top rolls to collect? So tonight, I'm going to give you my top 10. Welcome back, everybody. My name is Blaine Newpert. As I mentioned to you in the very beginning of this, I'm going to give you a list of 10 rolls of Lincoln Cents that I feel you should probably think about purchasing if you can find them. And the reason why is quite simple. These are rolls that are ones that are a little harder to find, or ones that are containing coins that are probably harder to find if you can find decent quality rolls of them. Now, why do I collect uncirculated rolls of Lincoln Cents? Simply because I love it. I have enjoyed it since 1993, and the original challenge for me was actually just to go back to 1940 and collect one roll of every date and every mint mark of business strike coins. I achieved that many years ago, and as a result, from there on, the goal was simply just to acquire better rolls of each date and each mint mark. So I have turned over my roll collection numerous times as a result of that. And by doing so, I now contain in my collection uncirculated rolls of Lincoln Cents that are just absolutely mind blowingly nice. Why? Well, everybody likes to collect an individual coin of a particular date and mint mark to put into their collection and have a really nice set of coins. Nothing wrong with that. My goal was to collect rolls of them, and the nicest rolls that I can find of every date and every mint mark, so that when the Lincoln Cent is eventually discontinued, hopefully soon, I'm crossing my fingers, I will have 50 really nice sets of Lincoln Cents. And everybody is going to definitely want a really nice set of Lincoln Cents. So, yeah, that's part of the reason why. Well, let's get going, and I'm going to explain how I'm going to do this next. So, the way this is going to work is pretty easy. I'm going to give you a list of these roles, and as I go through this list, I'm going to try and show you pictures of some of the roles that I have of these particular dates that are on this list. And this list is going to go from 1940 all the way up to present, or, going forward in time, so to speak. Now, these roles are not in any particular order in terms of which one is number one on the list, which one is number five on the list, so on and so forth. They are just in chronological order. And when we get to each one of the roles, I will tell you its level of difficulty in terms of finding it, so to speak, and approximately what you can expect to pay for some of these roles. Now, remember, just because I tell you that you can expect to pay $200 for a particular roll of coins does not mean that's actually going to be the case. You may get lucky and you may be able to find a roll like this that's a decent quality roll of coins for $150. You may also wind up having to pay $250 or $300. So remember, the goal with roll collecting is simple. It's not just to buy the rolls, it's to buy decent quality rolls of coins. That is the challenge that there is. And when it comes to that particular challenge, that also goes for any of the 1930s rolls of coins. The reason why I started at 1940 is because from 1940 on up, those rolls are relatively attainable. When you get past or back behind 1940, for example, The rolls from 1934 to 1940 are not very easy to run across, and there's a few very expensive rolls in that particular date time frame there. And as a result of that, there are an awful lot of those dates in the 1930s that are just unachievable for most people. It is also very hard to find good quality rolls of those particular dates. So, that in and of itself is the main challenge of anything pre 1940. So, without any further ado, let's start this list off going forward from 1940. So the first two rolls on this list are from 1942. Why 1942? Why not 1940, 1941? For the most part, 1940 and 41 saw a lot of coins being made, and the coins that were produced for Lincoln cents were of decent quality. You can find a lot of them out there. Not always easy to find a couple of the S Mint ones, for example, and that's fine. So if you do get a chance to find 40 and 41 rolls that are decently priced for decent quality coins, and again, like I said, that's always the key. Better the quality of the coins in the roll, the more you're going to wind up paying for them, so on and so forth. If you can find them, buy them. So in 1942, what changed? Why do I have two on this list in 1942? I could put all three technically on this list, but for the most part, the 1942 Philadelphia and the 1942 San Francisco are number 10 and number 9 on this list. The reason they are is because early in the year in 1942, the mint director made the decision to remove a certain component of the composition of the coin. Now, this is something that not a lot of people know, and so I'm doing a little educating here along with this. They removed the tin because the tin was needed for the production of warships. And as a result of that, you basically took the 1942 Lincoln cent from bronze, right there, to brass right here. And you can tell the difference in terms of color. And they removed that composition and used up the, I guess if you want to call it, remaining planchet strips that they had in the bronze composition by the end of February of 1942. And as a result of that, a majority of the coins made in 1942 are actually made out of brass. So the trick here is to see if you can collect both brass and bronze in terms of a roll of coins. It's not easy to do, but it can be done. Takes a little bit of work in looking at them, being able to tell what they are. But here's the fun part. 1942 Philadelphia is on this list because of that one little tidbit and because of the fact that it is relatively easy to score. You can actually get a hold of a nice, decent 1942 Philadelphia Mint roll of coins for between $100 and $150. And if the coins are better in quality, you're going to pay more, like I've always said. And I'm not going to continue to repeat that. You should just know it going forward. And so, in terms of degree of difficulty, I'd probably give it out a scale of 1 to 10 on the list. I'd probably give it a 3 or a 4. It's pretty easy to come across. Now, the 42 San Francisco Mint one, however, that's another story. Because of its decreased amount of coins produced in terms of mintage, it is much more scarce to find and get a hold of. As a result, its level of difficulty to find probably about a 7 or an 8 on the list. And the price goes right up along with that. You can expect to pay anywhere between I would say $500 and $800 for a nice, decent roll of 1942 S Mint Lincoln cents. Now, here is my 1942 Philadelphia Mint coins. And in a minute here, you'll also get a chance to see my 42 San Francisco Mint coins. There they are. And those two rolls are some of the absolute finest rolls that you are going to see for this particular date anywhere. They are just absolutely astounding in quality. So, yeah, nice rolls of coins. And again, like I said, 42 was a transition year, if you want to call it such, because the year that came after that saw a huge change. That one's up next. As you can see on the screen in front of you, I am starting out this little, I guess if you want to call it number 8 on the list line item by showing you all three of my 1943 Lincoln Cent rolls. This is an absolutely phenomenal year to collect. Everybody hunts them, everybody loves them. The challenge with these is finding them that have not been reprocessed. And if you don't know what you're looking for, that right there is, I guess you want to call it, your Achilles heel in terms of trying to find 1943 rolls of coins. Now, I'm not going to say that the 43 Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco mint are any one of those three mints is better to collect than the other. My goal with this here and telling you all of this is simply if you can find an original, nice roll of 1943 Lincoln cents of any of the mints, buy it. And whatever you do, don't look at Gray Sheet as your guide when you're attempting to purchase them because it doesn't know what it's talking about. There's absolutely no way that you're going to pay $60 or $70 or $80, with this what they say the Philadelphia version of this thing is supposed to sell for. You can expect to pay for the 43 Philadelphia mint anywhere between $150 and $200. For the Denver mint, which by the way is the hardest of all three of the rolls to find. Everybody would think that it's San Francisco, and that is indeed not the case. But the Denver mint, you can expect to pay anywhere between $250 and $400 for the roll if you find a decent roll of coins. And the San Francisco mint, just because it's San Francisco, you can probably expect to pay anywhere between $300 and $500 for a roll of these coins. The level of difficulty to find them, I'm going to stick pretty much the 43 Philadelphia at about a 6 on the list of degree of difficulty out of 10. I'm going to stick the San Francisco one at about the same, really, for the most part, probably at a 6. But I am going to stick the Denver version or the Denver Mint roll of these at about an 8 on the list because it is incredibly hard to find. And it's very hard to find in good quality. So, again, key to the 1943 year, make darn sure you know what you are looking for and do not, whatever you do not buy rolls of Lincoln cents off of eBay that are 1943 dated Lincoln cents unless you definitely know what you are looking for. Next up on the list, 1947 Philadelphia Mint. Now, I had this one down here as number 7 on my list, but I'm going to give like number 7A, so to speak, to the following year, 1948, because it is also as difficult. But the 47 definitely is a level above the 1948. I would give the degree of difficulty of finding a nice, decent, clean roll of 1947 Philadelphia Mint Lincoln cents at about a 7 to an 8 on the list. 1948 falls just below that, probably at 6 or 7 on the list. But again, if you look at the PCGS numbers on this, you will notice there is a definite drop off from the numbers that are graded in 66 to the numbers that are graded in 67 for both years. As a result, that makes it a very challenging roll to find in decent quality because people are looking to cherry pick individual coins. So, yeah, when people cherry pick individual coins out of a roll, it makes finding an original roll or a nice quality roll of coins that much harder. Um, so, with that being said, one of the other things that affected the 1947, 48, 49, into the early 50s from the Philadelphia Mint was some webbing that started to show up on these coins. And the reason for it actually has to do with a wash that they did on the planchets before the coin was actually struck. And there are a couple of references that I've read over the years that basically talk about this particular problem with these particular Philadelphia minted coins. And so not only did it create a little bit of a webbing, but it also created a little slightly different coloring to them when it was finally dry and turned into, minted into a coin. So you don't get that same real deep red that you would normally expect to find in a nice, say, 67 or 67 plus coin. They tended to turn a little bit more pink, and then the other problem was the webbing that was on them. So there you go, 1947, tough year. Do yourself a favor and try and pick one up if you can. Okay, number 6 on the roll list here is 1949. 1949 Philadelphia Mint. And this is on the list for the same reason as the 48 and the 47 were. The quality of the coins that you can find out there is not as good as some of the other years. And as a result of that, number 6 deserved its own line item, so to speak, because the strike quality on the 49s started to deteriorate quite a bit. Why? I can speculate and say that it's because we knew we were going to get dragged into the Korean War in the early 1950s, and so they just didn't give a hoot. It's not the word I really wanted to use, but they didn't really care as much about minting high end quality coins. They were for commerce from that standpoint. Um, it suffered from the same problems as the 47 and the 48 with the webbing. And by the way, that webbing problem existed all the way up into the early 1950s, 1953, even 1954. Philadelphia Mint saw this. So here's my 1949 Philadelphia Mint roll. And as you can tell, it's an okay roll. It's decent. The first half of the roll is probably grade worthy. The second half of it, probably not so much. But again, as you can see, it's still a nice roll of coins. And, look at it from the standpoint, if I'm having a hard time finding them, you guys will too. Degree of difficulty to find, decent, probably 6 or 7 in terms of degree of difficulty. Expect to pay $200 to $300 if you can find a decent quality roll of them. At least that's what I would probably pay for them. So yeah, next roll on the list is going to be kind of a shocker. You're going to have a hard time with this one because most people don't think about it. So number 5 on this list is kind of a weird one because everybody's going to hear this date and this mint and they're going to go, wait, what? No, I don't understand. So this is a roll that when I can find it, I buy it. It's that simple. And it's can be an average roll or a decent roll of coins. It's impossible, next to impossible, to find this particular date and mint in a decent quality roll of coins. And it's 1951S, San Francisco Mint. Now, here's what's interesting. The roll on gray sheet is considerably less for a 1951S than it is for a 1952S. And what's really interesting is the 1951S has a lower mintage by a million coins than the 1952S. And yet the 1952S, for whatever the reason, Gray Sheet says that you can expect to pay about $200 for that roll of coins, and the 1951S is half that. All right, that's how much you need to make sure that you do not follow Gray Sheet prices for anything other than a working number to start with. Because I will pay in excess of $200 or $300 for a roll of 51S if they're a nice roll of coins. Most I've ever paid for a 1951S roll of coins is $380. And yeah, I mean, it can command a decent amount of money if they're in really nice shape. Now, I do know from experience that grading 51S coins is a challenge in and of itself. And I'm responsible for a couple of 67 plus graded 1951S coins themselves. But that's as high as I've ever gotten on a 51S. And with that being said, that's probably one of the reasons why the 51S is so hard to find. People cherry pick them, very similar to that of some of the earlier Philadelphia Mint ones that I was just talking about. So here's my 1951S roll. You can get a chance to see it. It is a really nice roll of coins. All right, number 4 on the list. Yeah, we're going to skip the rest of the wheat cents and go right into the 1960s. Yeah, everybody has heard the stories of the 1960s, right? Anyway, so this one is one that is a sleeper roll all in of itself. It's the 1960 Philadelphia Mint Small Date. Also, a roll of coins that I will buy every single one I can get my hands on because they are just not out there. I mean, literally, they are just not out there. Of all of the 1960 Philadelphia minted coins, roughly only 2 million of them, or estimated anyway, are estimated to be small dates for Philadelphia. Now, I'm not talking about the Denver minted ones, I'm talking about Philadelphia minted ones. And as a result, at one particular point in time in the 1960s, the 1960 Philadelphia roll of coins was selling for in excess of $500 a roll in the mid 1960s. That's how much of a, I guess, rarity they considered it to be, even just a few years after minting. So that tells me that if I'm going to buy a roll of coins from 1960, the roll I want to buy is the 1960 Philadelphia minted roll of coins. I would give it a degree of difficulty of finding it at about a 5 or a 6. You can still find them, but finding decent quality ones is a challenge. So that degree of difficulty goes up if the roll is substantially nice. Now, I recently just paid about $200 for a roll of them off of one of my Facebook coin pages, and Gray Sheet says that it's only worth $100. Yeah, no, it's worth more than that. Definitely. So here's my 1960 Philadelphia Mint roll of coins. As you can see, nice roll. I own 9 or 10 of these rolls, something like that. And we'll continue to keep buying them as I find them. They're not easy to find. So, when I get to 20 rolls, maybe I'll stop. There you go. That's number 4 on the list. Number 3 on the list technically are not business strike. And the reason for them existing on this list is because they are achievable, because so many of these were saved because they were unique and different. And there's 3 dates that encompass this particular line item on this list, and it's 1965, 1966, and 1967. All 3 of which are special mint set. If you can get a hold of a roll of each one of these, do it. They're really cool coins to look at. They've got a really nice shine to them. But my caution to this is make sure that the person you're buying them from actually knows what a special mint set coin looks like, because I have actually seen people post them up for sale on some of the coin pages and even on eBay that say it's 1965 special mint set roll, and they are just standard business strike 1965 coins. So make sure you know the difference, and make sure they know the difference so that you're actually buying the right thing. Degree of difficulty of finding them, it's probably not that hard. I would say you're probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 or 5 in terms of degree of difficulty. Um, Price, it's kind of all over the place. It depends on how rare they are in terms of finding them. I've seen rolls go for $50. I've also seen rolls go for $150 of each one of those dates. So yeah, I mean, you just kind of got to play that one by ear. And if you want it, buy it. If you've got the money, buy it, because they're not making any more of them, so you might as well have them. I'm not going to bother showing you my rolls of each of those dates. Just take my word for it. They're decent rolls, and they're worth what I paid. I didn't pay a ton of money for them. I think I paid less than $100 for each one of my rolls. So there you go. Number 2 on this list is one that people are probably going to have the hardest time with, and yeah, this is just an impossible roll of coins to find. Absolutely astounding. Of all of the Lincoln Cent rolls that you can find out there, excluding any like errors or anything like that, or whole roll of 55 double die, for example. Um, Look, this one is way up there. Degree of difficulty 10. I'll even say 11 or 12, actually. In all of my years of collecting, I have only seen 3 rolls. I have only been able to purchase one. Here it is, right here. And it is the 1970S small date. This is an absolutely insanely impossible roll of coins to find. You can expect to pay anywhere between $2,000 and $3,000 for one of these rolls of coins. I think I paid $2,300 for this particular one, and it is a beautiful roll of coins. It is an all original roll of coins too, which is really quite interesting. Because usually you find the other 2 rolls that I saw were actually put together rolls of coins, not actual original rolls of coins, which is also difficult to do. And I've seen people do it. But each one of these coins, in an average 64 or 65 grade, is 50, $60 a piece. So you can see where you get to $2,500 pretty quick and easy. And this particular date and mint, so to speak, is as a result of the same thing that happened back in 1960, when, in 1960, they started out with the small date, made the design change to the large date, and went on from there. 1970 is the same way. Started out as a small date, and they changed it to a large date, and so they only made a certain number of them, and it is not really known exactly how many they made. It's just safe to say that it was a minuscule amount of the 1970s coins that were produced that year. So if you can afford to find one and buy one, um, just bite the bullet and buy it, and then call me and add $500 and I'll buy it from you. Because yeah, I mean, it's just impossible to find. Okay, well, we're down to number 1 on the list, the last one. And again, like I said, these are not in order in terms of their degree of difficulty or anything like that. They're in order chronologically. And you're going to be shocked at this one too, because everybody's like, I don't understand, because there are some roles that as you go further on, in the series, with the wide AMs and stuff like that, that are, if you can find a full roll of them, that are probably more valuable, and that's fine. But this one holds a special place in everybody's heart, in this particular year, because of just the sheer amount of variety of that. And this year is 1982. Now, everybody is familiar with 1982. There are 7 different varieties, 8 if you count the couple of coins that are the 1982 Denver minted small dates in copper that are out there. But for the most part, let's just say that there are 7 varieties, 8 if you include the San Francisco mint and, whatever. That's fine. Anyway, um, it's important to note here that, there are 4 of them. I've got it written down here just so that I don't mess this up. Philadelphia mint ones that you should collect, and 3 Denver mint ones. You've got brass large date, brass small date. You've got zinc large date, zinc small date for the Philadelphia, and then Denver brass large date, zinc large date, and zinc small date for the Denver mint. And so there are 7. My suggestion with this is do yourself a favor and buy yourself a whole set of rolls of this. And the reason why is just it's really cool. Some have different mintages than others, but the other really interesting part about this, unlike the 1960 small date and the 1970s small date, where they started out as a small date and then changed to the large date, most people don't realize that they actually started out as a large date in 1982 and ran most of the year through August, September were some of the last large dates that were made, and then switched to the small dates. So yeah, I mean, they had a big chunk of the large dates that were made versus a significantly smaller chunk of the small dates. Um, you can expect, if you can find a roll of each one of these, you can fully expect you're going to pay about 150 to $180 for a complete set of nice, decent 1982 large date and small date in both the copper and the zinc. Um, so yeah, I mean, this is a degree of difficulty. It's not that difficult, probably because there's so many of them out there, and you can acquire them. It's just that there's a premium to find them. So really, if you're going to say you're going to buy 7 rolls of coins for $150, that's pretty fair. That's not bad at all. I would do that in a heartbeat, and I own about 4 or 5 sets of them, something like that. And they're decent coins. I've got a couple of really nice versions of some of those rolls that will command some really high money when I do eventually try and sell them, if that's the case. So there's my list. And again, remember, I'll reiterate, it's not comprehensive. There is other roles in there that, as you go through time, that are definitely worth hunting. But the key to roll hunting is make sure that if you are buying rolls of coins, you know what you are buying and that you definitely identify with what a good quality roll of coins is so that you don't get taken. Thank you for watching. I know it's another long video, but trust me, a lot of information packed into this 30-minute thing. And we do appreciate very much you, if you would, please like the video if it shows up on the YouTube channel, which it will, and also subscribe so that you get notifications when more videos become available. Thank you again for watching. My name is Blaine. Again, have a good evening, everybody. We'll talk to you later.